This film shows a real advertising media presentation. The campaign was for the Financial Times, the world-leading business newspaper. The main aim of the campaign was to stem a year-on-year decrease in sales.
I'm Product Marketing Manager for the Financial Times across Europe, Middle East and Africa. I'm responsible for advertising our brand, the FT, but also our newspaper products.
My job title is Account Director, and basically what I do is I'm the main point of contact, day-to-day contact with the client. And an advertising agency is made up of many different departments, for example, the creative department, strategic planning, TV production, print production. And my job is to coordinate with all those departments so that the client doesn't have to talk separately to all those people and they just talk to me. And ultimately I work with the client from the beginning to the end of a project and make sure that the project's done sort of on time with the right creative solution and on budget as well.
My job title is Senior Planner Buyer, which means I plan and buy the media schedules for my clients. So I plan the shape of the media schedules, which magazines, which posters, and then I go and buy the actual media space so the adverts appear.
There are many reasons why companies might like to advertise. Some of the most common are to change perceptions of a product, to launch a new product, to build an awareness amongst a target audience, or indeed just to retain market share, so by reinforcing perceptions. There are a number of phases to creating an advertising campaign. The first phase is very much data gathering internally within the organisation. So that may be getting information from editorial on a new product supplement, for example. The second stage is then to put together a brief where we would consider the audience, the communication need that would reflect the business need, and then we would pull that together for both the advertising agency and the media agency, who would then develop their own briefs from there. The next phase is very much the agencies working together to come back with a solution and a recommendation.
The sort of process of creating an advertising campaign for a client is basically that we would get a brief from the client, a written brief, which we would then turn into what we call a creative brief, and I would work with a planner to do that. And a creative brief is worded differently from the client brief because it's designed to stimulate the creative team. Once we'd done the creative brief and we'd agreed it with the client, we would then brief a creative team and give them some time to think up some ideas. We would then see those ideas and make sure that they tallied with the creative brief, and if we were happy that they did, then we'd go and present the creative work to the client. And then there's a process of agreeing the creative work with the client, making any changes they want, going sort of back and forward till we're all happy. And then we basically go into the production phase. So, you know, if it's a poster, for example, you might have a photography shoot. If it's TV, you'd be working out who you wanted your director to be and setting up the TV shoot, and it sort of goes from there. A typical rule of thumb is that clients tend to like to spend around 10% of their media budget on production, because obviously you don't want to spend millions of pounds on production if your media budget is tiny. But it can really range from, you know, the thousands on a press ad up to the millions if you're doing a really big TV ad which might have celebrities in it or special effects and things like that. So it can really vary depending on what you're trying to do.
For this particular campaign, we analysed our sales figures and patterns over a number of years and identified a need to stem the decline in circulation by defending our readership.
Joe, Lucy, thanks for coming today. I'd like to take you through our proposals for the media plans for the forthcoming campaign. As you know, there are some editorial changes happening at the Financial Times. This means two things for us. Firstly, the paper will be able to and will reach a new reading audience. And secondly, we'll be able to strengthen our existing readership through the expansion of the existing product. So the core readership is 2.7 million people. Those are the current active readers of the FT. And then the broader readership, who we hope to reach with this expanded editorial, encompasses 4.1 million people. That's all broadsheet readers who have an interest in business and company news. The next element of the campaign will be taxis. These are a great way to reach both of your audiences, especially in areas such as London, where we can really penetrate key areas such as the city, and then the broader West End and central London to reach the broader broadsheet audience. We'll kick off from May with these, with a good weight of 200 or so taxis. This is the second part of the taxi campaign. We're using the adverts on the backs of the seats in taxis to really explain what's happened to the product, to explain how the changes are relevant to these people. So that's a summary of how we'd like to approach the campaign on outdoor, on posters and taxis. I'll now go on to look at how we'd approach the campaign in magazines.
We'll measure the success of the campaign by looking at the audited figures for newspaper circulation. We will compare this month on month and year on year.